Mr. Hoff here with Classroom Composers, and in today's video lesson, we're going to learn how to open our saxophone case. We're going to learn about the parts inside of the saxophone case, the parts of the saxophone, how to put the saxophone and build the saxophone, how the reed works and how to put the reed on our mouthpiece, and then finally we're going to learn how to maintain the saxophone. This is going to correspond with lessons 2, 3, 4, 4B, and 5 in the pre-method book. So let's get into it. On the floor right here, this is our saxophone case. This is a hard saxophone case, meaning that it's made out of like a harder plastic. And it should be important to note that this case will not protect it from anything serious, like dropping it from really high or being run over by a car or something like that. This is mostly just like designed for if you're walking, you bump into something, that'll protect it from that. So still continue to be careful with your saxophone case, even though this case appears to be very safe and secure. It's not as safe as it looks. So let's go ahead and open this case. So when you're opening your saxophone case, it's important to do it on the floor because it's a large instrument and we don't want anything falling out. You need to identify which part of the case is the top and which part of the case is the bottom. An easy way to do that is to look for the latches, and the latches should open up just like that, and you know that you have the top part of the case. Another easy way to tell that it's the top part of the case is you want to look for the logo, and the logo of the case should be on the top. And the final way to tell is this part of the case is a little bit smaller than this part, which is larger, and usually the larger part's going to go on the bottom. So let's go ahead and open up our saxophone case and let's see what we have here. And inside the saxophone case, you're going to see 3 saxophone parts and some cleaning supplies, a neck strap, and a reed. So let's go ahead and go over all these parts right now. The first thing that you're going to see is the body of the saxophone. I'm going to get a little bit closer so we can start talking about some of these parts here. On the body of the saxophone, you're going to have the bell, which is shaped kind of like a bell. So this is the end of the instrument. You're going to have down here, you're going to have the right hand keys, and these are going to be indicated by these pearls here. You're going to have the thumb rest, which is on the back of the instrument. This is where your right thumb is going to rest once we learn how to hold it. On the top of the saxophone, this is going to be where your left hand keys are going to be, and you've got pearls here as well to show you where your fingers are going to go. And we have our thumb rest on the back of the saxophone right here. That's where your left thumb is going to go, and then we have the octave key right here, which we'll learn about eventually. There's a little hoop right here. This is where your neck strap is going to go. And finally, we have the body cap here, which is going to protect the top of the body. So that's the body of the saxophone. The next part of the saxophone that we're going to see in the case is the neck. And the neck is right here. This is going to go on top of the body. And then the final part of our saxophone, and I'll go ahead and walk closer, so this is going to be the mouthpiece. And with the mouthpiece, you're going to have the mouthpiece cap. This protects the mouthpiece from getting chipped. You're going to have the mouthpiece itself right here, and then you're going to have the ligature. So make sure that you have all 3 parts of that mouthpiece inside your case. Moving forward, we're going to have the neck strap. This is going to be very important to help support the saxophone. You should have reeds inside of your case. You should have 3 reeds at all times at minimum. Reeds are very delicate and easy to chip, and you want to make sure that you have backups in case yours breaks or it gets worn out. Make sure that you talk to your teacher and see what size reed that you need to get and what brand of reed that you need to get, because there's all sorts of different types of saxophone reeds, and it's important that you have the right size that your teacher wants and the right size and the right brand so that you're successful. We're going to have some cork grease. This looks like a little tube of chapstick. And then the last thing we're looking for is a cleaning swab that you'll have to use once you're done playing. So those are all of the parts of our saxophone and all the things that are inside of your case. If you're missing one of those things, you're going to need to talk to your teacher about how to get one. So let's go ahead and go into how we're going to build our saxophone. And we're going to start by first finding our neck strap, and we're going to go ahead and put our neck strap around our neck. And the neck strap is going to help support the saxophone because it is a fairly large and heavy instrument. After that, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the body of the saxophone out of the case. We're going to always hold it with 2 hands. Once we have the saxophone out, we're going to find the little hoop right here, and this is where our neck strap is going to get connected to. So we're going to put our neck strap on, and this is going to help secure the saxophone so it definitely is not going to fall on the floor now. Okay, after that we need to find the cap. We need to take the cap off, and this cap is just going to get placed right inside of our case. Next to the cap, you're going to look for the neck screw, and you're going to just loosen this neck screw because we're going to grab the neck of the saxophone out next, and the neck is going to be slid right into the top of the body. When you're putting the neck on, and I'll get a little bit closer here, it's important not to force anything, and if it's not working, you just need to loosen it a little bit more and kind of work your way down until the neck connects all the way. After you've done that, it's important that everything gets lined up, so there's a little rod towards the top of the body, and you need to make sure that the rod is underneath the octave key right here, and that the rod is not on top of it. You also need to make sure that the back side of the neck is lined up with the back of the instrument. And then, once you've done that, you can go ahead and tighten the screw here, the neck screw, and so that it doesn't move. Keep in mind that if it's not totally lined up correctly, that you can still adjust it later on. Okay, now that we have the neck on the body, the next thing we have to do is we have to put the mouthpiece on. So we're going to take our mouthpiece out, we're going to take the protective cap, and we're going to put the cap back in the case, and then we're going to carefully place the mouthpiece on the cork, and we're just going to kind of work our way down. And sometimes it's easier to take the ligature off to get the mouthpiece on, then you can put the ligature back on. And just like that, our saxophone is built. Now, this saxophone won't make any sound because we're missing a very important part, which is the reed. So we're going to find our reed inside of our case, and before we even talk about how to use the reed, it's really important to understand that the reed is very, very delicate. And you need to be very gentle with your reed, because if you accidentally chip it or you break it, it's not going to make any sound on the saxophone, and it's going to hurt the way that you do sound. So you also need to be very gentle whenever you're dealing with the reed. So the reed comes in the protective case. You're going to carefully take the reed away from the protective case. You'll put the protective case back in the case. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place the reed in your mouth. And you're going to only get about half of the reed starting on the curved side. You're going to get about half of it, and you're just going to put it in your mouth to get it wet. You're not going to bite the reed, you're not going to chew it. It's just going to go in your mouth, and you're just going to let the saliva in your mouth get it wet. And you're going to do this for about 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, you can take the reed out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have to carefully secure the reed on the mouthpiece. So I'm going to get a little bit closer here so that you can see this, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and take my mouthpiece off so that it's a little bit easier for you to see. You're going to want to go ahead and do this with your mouthpiece on the saxophone, but this will be easier to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to carefully take the ligature off, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take the flat part of the reed, and the flat part of the reed is going to get placed against the mouthpiece just like this. We want to make sure that we line up the curve of the mouthpiece with the curve of the reed. Now, once we've done that, we're going to take our ligature, we're going to make sure that our screws are loose, and then we're going to carefully place the ligature over the reed so that we don't chip it, and then we're going to carefully put the ligature over, and then after we've done that, we're going to make sure everything's all lined up, and then we're going to tighten it. So now that we're tight, we're going to check a couple things. Number one, is our curve still lined up? We want to make sure that for this particular ligature that the screws are facing down. And after we've done that, you're all set to go. I'm going to place my mouthpiece back on because I took mine off. And now we have a properly built saxophone. It's important that you learn how to do this quickly and that you memorize how to do it and that you practice building your saxophone. Okay, so now the saxophone's built, we have to learn how to take it apart and maintain it. So, whenever you're taking apart your saxophone, once you're done playing, you're going to first start with the reed. So I'm going to unscrew my ligature here. I'm going to take my ligature off. I'm going to take my reed. I'm going to be very careful with it. I'm going to look back in my case for my reed case, and I'm going to carefully place the reed case and then put the reed inside of it, and then put the reed case back in the saxophone case. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my mouthpiece off. I'm going to make sure the ligature is all good. I'm going to grab the mouthpiece cap. Mouthpiece cap is going to go back on the mouthpiece, and this is going to go back in its case. The next thing I'm going to do is unscrew the neck screw here. I'm going to carefully remove the neck, and then I'm going to place the neck back in the case. Now my next step is that I'm going to have to run the swab through the saxophone. Because as you play, what happens is that the air that you blow through your instrument is gonna condense, and when air condenses, it turns into liquid, it turns into water. So there's gonna be moisture inside of the saxophone, and it's important that we swab that moisture out of the instrument, because what too much moisture is going to do is it's going to ruin the pads of your saxophone, or it might mold start growing inside. So some pretty bad stuff if you don't swab your instrument. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your swab and you're going to find the little weight, and you're going to place the weight down the body of the saxophone, and then at the bottom of the instrument you're going to want to grab the weight out. And then you're going to carefully pull the weight through, and this is going to swab the inside of the saxophone, and all the spit and all the moisture inside the saxophone is going to get collected by this. Now that we've done that, you can put your cleaning swab back in your case. You can put your cap back on, tighten the neck screw a little bit, place your saxophone body back in its case, loosen the neck strap, take the neck strap off, place the neck strap in the case, close the case, latch the case, and you're good to go. The final thing that I need to talk about is cork grease. And cork grease is this little chapstick looking container right here. And cork grease is used if you're having a hard time putting the mouthpiece on the saxophone. If the cork gets a little bit too dry, you can place a little bit of cork grease on the saxophone. I'm just going to place a little bit of cork grease on the cork. And I'm going to cap my cork grease, and then I'm going to place my mouthpiece. I'm going to take my cap off and place my mouthpiece back on, and should have a little bit easier time getting the mouthpiece back on the cork. You don't need to cork grease every single day. In fact, if you cork grease a lot every single day, it's going to ruin the instrument. It's you just kind of use the cork grease as needed. So make sure that you're practicing how to build your saxophone and how to do everything correctly, and you're taking excellent care of it so that your saxophone lasts you a long time.